Okay. Let's start. I can't see the whole room, so I don't know whether there are some colleagues sitting there. But we can see Sri Charan. Yeah, okay. Lovely. All right. Okay, so we can begin. Thank you for coming to this talk. My name is Dureshawar Lugmani. People call me Sherry. And I worked at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University for more than 20 years. With me is our lovely team. Let me introduce Stella Wong. Probably Stella Wong can talk about herself. Stella Wong is our collaborator, and she teaches at the at the Department of Applied Sciences. Can you introduce yourself, Stella, a little bit?
Yes, hello, good morning. I'm Stella Wong from the Department of Applied Social Sciences, and I'm the Director of the Fieldwork Education and also the social work teachers in the department. Good morning. Thank you for coming.
So, yes, and we have been working together with the English Language Center for a long time, and extremely valuable collaboration for developing materials for social work discipline. Andy Jarvis is my colleague at the ELC. Andy, would you like to introduce yourself and your role?
Sure. Hi, everybody. So I work in the English Language Center at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. So I work a lot with Shari in the ELC. So I teach English for academic purposes and English for specific purposes. And I also coordinate some subjects, including one that I'll be talking about today, which is an ESP subject based in the social sciences.
Thank you. So it's a rather long session, and so feel free to chip in, ask questions, and we will do the same. We'll keep it informal. So if you have any questions, you don't have to. You can begin the discussion. That's the advantage of having a cozy session. Okay, so this project was a teaching and learning development grants project, and in which we would get more funding if we had successful collaboration with a faculty or another department or discipline. So we have been working with social work colleagues for quite some time, and we have had several successful collaborations, but we were not able to access apprentice genres because of their confidentiality and previously. So we were really lucky to have this access finally, to be able to help our students just before they enter the field, enter their main work. Okay. So this is basically a summary of our abstract. So apprentice genres are confidential, and it's not easy to develop support for them for us language professionals, because we don't have access to them. But these are really important types of writing, because this is when the students actually are in the field. They are talking to their clients, customers, cases, and they have to be extremely tactful and in their writing, in their communication, in this social scenario. So we were lucky to have this collaboration with the social work department, because they have professionals from the field who help students supervise their placement with the real clients. And those were the colleagues together with Stella who helped us understand these genres so that we could help our students. So we focused on apprentice genres, as Professor Gardner, Nessie and Gardner call it. The ones we focused were intake summary, case summary recording, and group summary recording. These were very new names for us when we actually started our project. And also the feedback from this collaboration helped us as English Language Center to improve our own materials. And Andy will be talking about those later on for our own subjects for discipline-specific requirement. This was a game changer for us, this collaboration. And I think among our many collaborations in many different departments, I would say that the collaboration with social work was really very impactful in terms of our own understanding of social work writing, and also in terms of the impact it had on our students' performance. Excuse me. So a little bit of background. ELC at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University has extensive writing programs for our students. And in the past, since 2012, we have been engaged in reading and writing requirement. Every single student has to complete a subject with the intensive writing and extensive writing assignment of 2,500 words. Another project that I worked on, and in which we also collaborated with Stella previously, was the LID, Literacy in the Disciplines, where we looked at 3 disciplines and 18 different genres, science, social science, and engineering. And this particular project is a kind of a continuation of LID, but with different apprentice genres, because at that time we didn't have access to them. And we were fortunate to be able to work on this. Why we explore these genres? Our university has its own strategic priorities, and that's why this university has put in a lot of resources into discipline-specific writing. You must have heard the keynote where Julia Chen talked about writing across the curriculum initiatives at PolyU. So we have, the university has obviously spent a lot of resources into developing writing across the curriculum initiatives in different faculties and departments. And Hong Kong University Grants Commission at large is very interested in developing discipline-specific writing. So as you can see that the priorities of PolyU dovetailed with our project, and to improve the quality of student experience of teaching and learning, to provide them with a supportive environment, to review and reflect on their learning, and also to priority 6, to continue to enhance the quality of undergraduate degree programs, which of course means that the content that we teach and the support that we provide helps them. And that's why these practicum genres, we were able to support students in their discipline-specific requirement as well, which has 2 streams, which Andy will be talking about later. Another aim of this project was to influence subject teachers' pedagogy, and this is not possible if we don't have a very good relationship with our subject teachers from different departments, different faculties. And that is the first and most important step in working on any of these projects, to develop an understanding, a sense of goodwill, and continuous conversations, which we have had with the social work department. We were really fortunate, and some other departments too, but also the level and the commitment of the department is crucial, and it's not easy to obtain, because people, colleagues are busy in their own projects, and when they come and speak with us, they have to have very strong motivation to improve their students' quality. And that's why, to develop a culture which is conducive to valuing teaching and learning, and motivating the subject teachers to excel through these collaborations, is one of our university's strategic priority 7, which also was the foundation why we were able to get funding for this project. So the project, it ended in 2022, and it basically, the main aim was to enhance students' literacy in social science apprentice genres. And the objectives were to develop support materials, for key subject assessments that impact their grades and enhance their discipline-specific requirement, which is our English Language Center's subjects improving English in the disciplines for various departments. And of course, it is really important for these subjects to send the right message, to be authentic in terms of our intervention, because students are meeting their subject teachers every day, working on their subject-specific assignments. And if we don't provide them the support they need, then there'll be a conflicting messages going to students from us and their subject teachers. So it's even more sensitive to support them. So what we did was we have experience with developing genre guides previously in other projects as well. So we continued some of the strategies. We developed genre guides, which were developed in collaboration with the subject teachers like Stella. And we also, what students valued enormously is annotated samples. So we got good student scripts previously done, and authentic reports from the industry, and annotated them for students. Based on those, we developed writing tips for students to remind them of the essential disciplinary features of writing. And we also developed language activities for weaker students. For example, if a particular lab report writing requires passive voice or a certain kind of tenses in methodology, we develop those separately for our students to be able to remind them of these, because this is a second language learning environment. So the intervention, although there were more subjects, but our focus today is on the social work and social science discipline. So these are the subjects we engaged with. 3621 is the ELC's own subject for two different kinds of groups: social work students and social policy and administration students. With Stella, we worked on Fieldwork 1 and Fieldwork 2. You can see, and Preparatory Workshop 1. You can see from the name of the subject that it is already an apprentice subject where students are going out in the field. The genres we focused on in the DSR subject, English for Social Science, is funding proposal. There were 200 students. Intake summary for Fieldwork 1, and case summary recording and group summary recording for the Applied Social Science Fieldwork 2 and Preparatory Workshop. Stella will be talking about these in greater detail later on. So the methods and materials, we subject leaders and students from social science and humanities discipline were invited. I'm not going to talk about the humanities today. We discussed and sought agreement on key or high stakes student assignments to be analyzed. And we then developed one kind of blueprint, initial set of materials, and then we piloted it quite early on. Immediately, actually, we to just see and feel, and then we made a lot of changes to those. So that was really a good strategy to see if these materials worked in the discipline. And then also, of course, we were evaluating as we were piloting, because when the subjects are offered, we have no control. Some in semester, for example, in term 1 or 2, some subjects were offered in term 1, some in term 2. So as we piloted, we evaluated them, and we did our surveys. And that gave us kind of cyclical feedback that helped us improve these materials for the next offer. And also we continue to talk to faculty regarding their impression of our materials and whether or not these were relevant and were being used by them and their students. And what was their impression when they marked student scripts. And these were also grounded materials that we developed are grounded in genre research. And we have referred to Professor Gardner's work, Professor Wingate's work for collaboration, the levels of collaboration that Professor Wingate has recommended, that the more we collaborate with the subject teachers, the closer we are to them, the better our materials will be and better outcomes we will have for our students. And of course, Nessie and Gardner's groundbreaking work on genres across the disciplines has been our main kind of Bible, so to speak, because they have addressed the word apprentice genres also comes from their work, because their genre family framework encompasses student writing very well. And it's very important to be able to see that the types of writing students engage in. And so it has been a great help for us. We collected both qualitative and quantitative. In quantitative, we did surveys, and qualitative, we did student-teacher interviews, focus groups, and also we analyzed the open-ended questions within the survey. I may not be able to present all of this data today. So 152 responses to Google Forms were received, and you can see the spread from different subjects. Now I will invite Andy to begin to introduce the Professional English for Social Science students subject, and how his experience was as a subject leader to working with us on this project. So Andy also represents a subject leader, although this subject is from the same department as I am, but Andy collaborated with us, agreed to collaborate with us. So Andy?
Sure, thanks, Shari. So this subject is delivered to students in their 3rd or 4th year of study. So at PolyU, it's a 4-year curriculum. So it's English medium, and students get language support throughout their 4 years. Usually in the first couple of years, they do subjects like general academic English subjects, and then the final years, they do more specific discipline, we call them discipline specific subjects. So this subject, it's a 2-credit subject. And one part of this subject is that students need to write a funding proposal. And that's what we worked on with this project to enhance how we deliver this funding proposal and develop some additional materials as well. So it's a really great experience for us to work more closely with the social science department, and just to kind of check in on what we're teaching in the English Language Centre is relevant to the students' needs as they enter their professions. So like Shari said, we have about 200 students taking the subject, usually about 3 to 4 teachers teaching it every year. Most of the students are Cantonese speakers, like their home language is Cantonese. And Shari, can I move it on myself, or do I need to ask you to do it? Sorry. So these are some of the support materials that we developed for this subject. So first of all, we, in collaboration with the social science department, we wanted to enhance our assessment itself and the instructions and what we ask students to do. We also developed an exemplar funding proposal with annotations. So these annotations were it's basically like language advice or strategy advice or structure advice for how to write a funding proposal. We also developed some language activities. So these were kind of standalone language activities which students could do to enhance their writing of the funding proposal. And also we developed our own materials. So basically we have core modules which are delivered through PDFs. Okay, if we could move on. Yeah, so this slide represents the students who responded to our survey. So we had about half of them were social work students and half were social policy and administration students. And then we have quite a complex set of students. So they're coming from different backgrounds. So in blue at the bottom, we have what we call senior year admitted students. These are students who do an associate degree at a different university, and then they come to us in year 3. In red, we have the part-time students. So these are students are working, usually in the field already, and they're earning their degree. And then the yellow, orange, yellow, and green is our full-time students. So like Shari said, we don't really have much control about when students take our subjects. So sometimes it's year 3, sometimes it's year 4. Sometimes the students spend a year abroad in year 3, and therefore they do it in year 4. So it changes quite a lot. Okay, so we had about a 25% response rate. And we can see here, basically, it's asked the students which support materials have you used or read. The first one is the assessment instructions and checklist, 87%. I actually thought this might be a bit higher because they need to read this in order to actually understand what to do in the assessment. But I was very pleased with the second results. So 94% actually used the proposal and read the annotations as well. So that was good. Language activities, around 60% students accessed these. I think this is understandable. This is kind of like additional work. So I think most of the students developed their language skills like on task, writing the proposal. So these were additional language activities. And then the lesson PDFs, again, I would have expected this to be a little bit higher, considering this is like the core materials for the course. Okay, so this slide is about how confident the students were to write a funding proposal. So this was asked to them after they accessed the materials and after they completed their funding proposal. I think the thing to point out here is near the bottom, it says program design rationale. So this tended to be quite a difficult section for them to write. So it was really useful for us to get this result. This section basically asks them to integrate like a theoretical framework to justify their product, their proposal. So in their proposal, basically they need to apply for funding, like a grant. They need to propose a project, like a small community-based project, and apply for some small-scale funding. So they have to come up with this idea themselves. And then in the proposal, they need to basically identify the target group for who they want to assist in their proposal. And then they kind of have to sell their idea as well. So this section, the program design rationale, was very tough for the students because, first of all, it required a theoretical framework, which I think was quite hard for them. And secondly, the style of writing the tone slightly changes to be more persuasive in this section. So they were used to like more academic style writing, using sources, this kind of thing. But I think it was a little bit more difficult for them to use these persuasive strategies. This was something quite new to them. Okay, thanks, Shari. Okay, this question is basically asking the students what they liked most about the support materials. And I think, yeah, the pleasing finding is that they liked the examples and like the exemplars and like the annotators exemplars that we gave them. So I think that was good. In grey, these are kind of just general comments. This was an open question, so they just gave some very open comments like very useful or it's clear. And I think also that what was useful for these students was how to format their proposal and how what they needed to do for each section of the proposal. So the justification, analyzing the problem, evaluating how they're going to evaluate the project, etc. So we gave them quite specific guidance on this. And again, this came through our discussions with social science department, and this was really handy for us to go through this process. Okay, so after the teaching of the new materials, there was a teacher interview. This was actually me. I was interviewed by, I think it was Shari or one of the research associates. So these are the comments that I gave, I think 1 to 2 years ago. Basically, the student grades did slightly improve. So there was slightly more A grades overall. So that was pleasing. I think from my perspective here, the second point I basically made was that with this extra guidance that the students got, then there was a lot, the quality had improved a lot. Students were a lot clearer about what they were doing, like with each sentence. So they weren't just trying to like fill their paragraphs, but they were actually thinking about what they were aiming to do for each sentence and also for each paragraph. So I think this was good for them. Also, like I mentioned, the theoretical framework. So this was, they were a lot clearer about this and how to write about it, and also some of the persuasive strategies that they incorporated. So I think this was new for them. Areas for improvement. So I mentioned a few at the bottom. First one is that we need basically more exemplars, and this is something that we have got now. We actually have about 5 or 6 exemplars on the course. And what we do now is, because I know it's a little bit tricky using exemplars because you don't want students to just emulate like a model. You want them to add in their own sort of personality and their own ideas into their work. But at the same time, you want to guide them. So we have 5 or 6. Some of them are better than others, so the students have to critically analyze them in the class, and this works pretty well. Second one was concern over how we ask students to present their work. We basically asked them to do like a multimodal type of assignment. So they need to include pictures, a little bit of color, just to try to make it inviting to read. This is not exactly what happens in the field. Usually they would just complete an online application like a form. But as course designers, there's always trade-offs and pros and cons. We felt that it's more like motivating if students can add their own sort of personality into the design of the proposal. The final point at the bottom, it's talking about, more focus on writing skills. So over the last couple of years, we've tried to give a little bit more advanced strategies and language and tips that the students can use. And I think for our students, they like this because it's something a little bit different. They've been studying English since kindergarten, basically, and they want something more advanced at this level. Okay, thanks, sorry. Okay, and I think we're coming up to the final slide or two from me. So we also did a focus group with a couple of the students. They made some interesting comments. For example, the first comment here, they were talking about what it takes to get an A in this subject or for this assignment. basically they thought that the materials that we provided them and the support materials would only get them 70% of the way, but the rest of it was due to their creativity, their innovative project. So that was an interesting comment that we received from them. I think, yeah, point 2 is very similar here. So they were very used to writing about research in a very academic, objective way, but they were less used to designing their own program and kind of selling it in a kind of more persuasive way. So this was using a bit of creativity, and this was something new for them. We had some comments, general comments. For example, yeah, the samples were very useful. These 2 students said that the annotated exemplar basically kick-started their own work, so it was very handy as a reference point for them, and also to help to organize their proposal and know what kind of language tone and language features to use. Some concerns from our students. So first of all, they thought that the checklist was not detailed enough. So they thought they wanted more detail on that. I'm a little bit wary of that, because the more specific you are with the assignment, the more constrained they are in a way. So we, try to get a balance with that. I don't want them to just copy what we want them to do, and then you get, 200 proposals, which are basically exactly the same. The second concern students had were about the program content section. So the point I made earlier, that they were more used to academic style writing and less used to professional or kind of like persuasive writing. This required their own ideas and creativity. Okay, I think there's one more. Is there one more slide there, Shari? So yes, the suggestions are that for us, we need to help students a little bit more with the persuasion and the creativity, and they learn a lot of the academic writing in the first 2 years. So we try to give them a bit more range in the strategies they have going into the final years. Okay, I think that's it from my part.
Okay, thank you, Jarvis. And now this is my turn. Yeah, it is about the social work student using the language packages, which is a self-learn package. And let me have some background of our students. Our social work student need to complete 800 hours of placement in order to get a registration in Hong Kong. And in PolyU, they have to complete 2 placements in their 4-year study, so that they can get a social work degree in the undergraduate program. And we are very happy to cooperate and work with ELC colleagues, because some of our students always share that the most hard things in the placement is the writing, because it is very different from the academic writing, because we have some professional requirement in writing the record. And by just reading the report produced by the colleagues in the agency, the student can't understand or figure out the language structure or the specific kind of words or grammar in the record of the agency. And in our curriculum, we don't have formal courses to help the student to learn the professional writing. And before they go to the placement, we have a series of preparatory workshops. And actually, we have 3 hours writing workshop for them, but not enough. We don't cover the work in this project. So our student benefit most in this teaching and learning project. And we have different year of students joining this project, and they have a different academic background. And for the student, some of the student, they have a better public examination result. We call this student DSE entry. That is, they have direct entry to our department. And another group of students, they are the part-time student and the senior year entry. They have less satisfactory result in the public examination, so they may complete their sub-degree program, and then with good academic result, then they enter PolyU. So they join in our department with different route, and their English academic competency is very different. Okay, maybe we will explain further later. And part of the writing report, we have produced 3 kinds of writing report. The first one is the intake summary template. What is this? Intake summary template is a detailed document describe our client's background, okay, including their current living situation, or their educational background, or their family of origin, and also include their levels of functioning. And in this document, students have to provide their analysis, and also they need to propose their intervention in this report. So it is a very important report in their fieldwork. Particularly, this report is for the final year student, because most of our final year students, they will place in the setting that have one-to-one interview. So intake summary template is for one-to-one interview. And and the template is like layout, include different sessions. And we have different subheading and headings, telling the student that the content or the key area that they need to put in this template. So it is a kind of form. It's a form with headings and subheadings. Okay, and this is the intake summary template. Okay, Sherry, please. So in this intake summary, we have produced 7 material to support our student to complete the intake summary report. Okay, and for the keynote, we provide some instruction and telling students how they can benefit from viewing this intake summary report. And the second one is the intake summary template. Just I have explained that it is a kind of form or layout telling the student the heading and the subheading or the key content that they have to put in this intake summary report. And the third one is the student sample with annotation. Actually, there are good examples of intake summary written by students in the past. So we identify a student script with annotations. That is, the notes are added in a column next to the text to show the student why the writing is good. Okay, and then we also have professional sample with annotation. We hope that student will benefit by looking at an example of an intake record written by a social work professional. And they will find that how to write concisely, and also precise vocabulary, and also how to have clear linking words to show the logical flow of relevant and important information. And the fifth one is about the writing tips. We have the do and don't, okay, with some examples telling the student the tenses and the linking words or some precise vocabulary that they can use in the intake summary report. The example also extract from the student sample and the professional sample. Okay. And the last one is about the learning activities. We would like the student to polish and also to improve their writing. So we produce some language activity, try to write by themselves, and then we have the answer at the last. So these are all the support documents that we have included in the folder called intake summary report. Okay, next. And this is the response of our student after viewing or using the self-learn package about the intake summary report. And you will see that most of our students in the second placement, they are placing in the elderly, in this cohort of student, and probably they will have the one-to-one interview in this setting, okay? And the second majority will be the family. So they need to see the family or the family member in their office. So they will use the intake summary report after they seeing the family's members. And the question about how much time they have spent on viewing the intake summary self-learn package. And most of over 16% of our students view the package around 1 to 2 hours. Okay. Next, okay. And same as drivers, we have asked students which part, which support material they have used or read. And from the finding, we see that the intake summary template, over 90% of our students had viewed the intake summary template because they need to know what they need to write or the item that they have to put in this intake summary report. And also half of the students have viewed the writing tips, the student sample, and the professional sample with annotations. Okay. And about their confidence, after viewing the support materials, they told us that their confidence in writing the intake summary, and you will see that the result is very good because they show very confident and reasonably confident after viewing the intake summary. So they know how to write the intake summary in different sessions, particularly the tentative intervention plan, which they told us that it is the most difficult part. Actually, the assessment part and the intervention part is the most important section in this intake summary. And after they viewing this intake summary report, they had more confidence in writing these 2 sessions. So the intake summary report helped them a lot to finish the report. Okay. And we also have the focus interview for the student, and they gave us a lot of response actually. Particularly, they will give their response for different support material. For example, for the student sample with annotation, they find that it is very helpful because they know how and what to write, the language used, and the tense and the tone. So particularly some of the students, they have been went through their placement in their sub-degree program, but they write this report in Chinese. So when they promoted to the degree program, they need to write in English. So the intake summary, the support document helped them a lot because it is in English. So, and for the intake summary template, students will copy the intake summary template and then use the template in their own writing. And they also tell us that their supervisor will revise a little bit about, maybe modify a little bit about the subheading of the template. Actually, we also put a word under the template, say that it is just for reference. They can compromise with their supervisor or revise the template according to the setting, because different setting or target group, they may have some specific item they need to input in this intake summary template. So they gave us this feedback. And another feedback is about the writing tips, because a student found that for them through the writing tips, they learn how to use the grammar, the tenses. They told us that Chinese language doesn't have many tenses as English. So the writing tips specify the tenses they have to be used in intake summary, because usually in this intake summary we use past tense for things. most of the content, but students may not have this idea before studying this inter-summary. So they help them a lot about the grammar or the sentence structure and how to write formally after reading this support document. Okay, and another slide is about, it is also the feedback of our students in the focus group that they found the conclusion session in the support document help them a lot because they don't have any idea what to write before. But after viewing the document, they know how to write this section. And so they learn how to write the case development objective, the sentence structure, and also how to write concisely. And most of the students told us that they learn from the sample, particularly the student sample and the professional sample with annotations. And for the language activity, you will see that only maybe one or two students, they will use this part of their activities because maybe they don't have time to use the activities and they want the support very quickly, very direct. So they just read the sample or the writing tips instead of go through the language activities to try by themselves. So the usage of this part is not very active actually. Okay, Shari, next.
Thank you.
Again, for the writing tips, you will find that we have another slide showing that most of the students they spend their time use and read the writing tips, right? And from their verbal sharing, they found that the writing tip is very helpful in a sense that they provide some vocabulary or they know how to the language style they need to be used and the grammar. And for the sample, they found that the sample structure is very useful, and also they can see actually the writing style in this kind of professional writing, and the language tips is useful for them. Okay, so because we produce the online platform, so they found that the soft copy is very useful. We don't have the hard copy for them actually. And for the for the case summary recording, this is another types of essential and important document that our social work student need to produce. Our social work student need to keep record. They need to retain information about their interaction with client after each interview. So it is a kind of recording, and our supervisor will use the recording to comment or give feedback for the student. And the student also use the recording to reflect back upon his interaction with the client. So it is a very extremely important method to learn in the social work practice. Okay. And same as the intake summary, we have produced several documents for the student, quite similar. Also the keynotes, the case summary recording, also the template, because we have a standard template for the student, so they know what should be included in this summary recording. And we also identify several student sample with good qualities, and then we work with the colleagues of ELC and analyze this sample and reproduce some annotation to let the student know why this sample is good. So the ELC's colleagues is very professional in analyzing the sentence structure. So this is not the knowledge that our colleagues, social work teachers can own. We need to work with, collaborate with the language students so that we know that, this is the sentence structure or the grammar that make it, this sentence is look like more professional or objective in a manner. So the cooperation is very important. And we also ask the student their nature of placement, and also the time spent on reading the case summary recording. And same as the intake summary, half of the half of the student using 1 to 2 hours. And for their background, same, because elderly setting, family setting, and mental health setting, they will have the chance to write the case summary recording and see the client individually. And for this time, you will see that they use the template and the sample with writing tips quite similar. 88%, over 80% of the student, they will read the recording template and also the sample with writing tips. And after they reading they use the case summary recording, we see that they have better confidence in completing different sessions in the case summary recording, and particularly the background information and the objective of the content. And the dark blue indicated that they are very confident. And for the light blue, that it is a reasonable confidence. So we will see that because our case summary recording, we have different sections that the student need to complete. And in general, the student got more confident to complete this document after using this case summary recordings. And the last one is about the group summary recording. Apart from individual case, our students need to organize group work. That is, they will gather maybe around 6 to 8 members or participants under a specific topic. For example, how to enhance their EQ, or maybe about some parenting groups. Okay, they will organize a group service for their service user. So same as the case summary recording, they need to write a recording after each group sessions. And this student is a DSE entry student. They are having the fieldwork 1, that is the first placement. Okay, because usually our fieldwork 1 student, they need to organize group work in their first placement. Okay. And yes, quite similar with the case recording, we have keynotes, group summary recording with the template, and also the samples, and also language activities. Are very different from the from previous slide is that usually for the group work, student will place in the children and youth service, because now our student is having the summer block placement. They are all a fieldwork 1 student, and they are all in the children and youth service because it is the summer holiday. They need to organize various kinds of group work for the children and youth, and they also spend around 1 to 2 hours for viewing the group summary recording. Okay, and again, the template is the most viewed documents because nearly 90% of the student will use this template, and half of the student will use the student sample with writing tips. Again, less student will use the language activities. Okay, after viewing the group summary recording, because in the group summary recording, we have different sessions. We ask the student how confident they are now writing different sections in the group summary recording. And we can see that very confident and reasonable confident is the most of the response in different parts of the section in the group summary recording. And let's go to Shari. So this is about the Google survey and the focus group. Now it is about, we also want to see the impact on their academic performance by using this self-learn package. Okay.
Stella, you want me to talk about this?
Oh, okay. I talk
Okay,
about
no
this.
problem.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
And
Yeah, so
I talk about this.
if you like.
Okay. Yeah, and we also want to comparison the grades. We have two cohorts of students. This is the 2019 to 2020 and 2020 to 2021, and the group that used the self-learn package is the 2020 to 2021. Okay, so we have a comparison for the student that they are 2019 student. You will see that we have a significant increase in the A grade of the student in 2020 to 2021 student. There are 40% of the student getting A grade, A range of performance in their fieldwork. And in our department, 4693 and 4694, they have the credit number 6 to 9, quite large, quite big credit number. So the significant increase in the A grade student contribute a lot in their GPA actually. Okay. And for the fieldwork one, this is the first time of their placement. We can also see that the cohort that uses the self-learn package, we have a better grade in A range with the differences of 3.83% more students getting A grade, and also 4% of more students getting B range of the grade. Okay, so this is a very encouraging result for us that the writing package helped them a lot in the performance in the fieldwork and getting a better grade.
Let me talk about this. Yeah, Stella. Would you like me to talk about this?
You talk about this?
If you would. Yeah, you can continue because it's your students and I like the insights that you give.
Okay. And this is an interesting finding because we want to make a correlation about the frequency of viewing, because we have collected data from the Google form about the time that they spent on viewing the documents. And we try to correlate with the distribution of the fieldwork grades. And you will see that the student, this result is for the student of senior year entry and part-time student. So their academic background maybe are less satisfactory than the direct entry student. And you will see that student who only spend 0 to 1 hour, they will get a better grade in A range and B range. Okay. And maybe it is counterintuitive with your analysis that, student with 2 hours or above times viewing the document, they get, A range grade only 3 students, B range only 10, and C range 0. So it is a big differences from our guessing, because we have a common sense analysis that when the students spend more time viewing the document, they may have a better result, but it seems not like this. So this is the result of the senior year entry. And for the direct entry student, the next slide is the next slide. Okay, this is the result of the direct entry. The student with better academic result actually, and quite similar is that students spend around maybe 0 to 1 hour student, they get a range and B range is higher than the student with 2 hours or above. So same as the student from part-time or senior entry. It seems that the frequency of viewing the document is not very related to the grade that they got. So this finding is very interesting. And maybe, Shari, do you have any idea about these findings?
Yeah, we were talking about this this finding, and it's very interesting, but it is not unusual, because usually students who feel less confident are generally weaker in their disciplinary aspects. They spend more time on, say, revision or looking at the reference materials But this longer period of time may not result in, may not translate into higher grades. I'm also leading another program, discipline-specific support for English writing requirement, and we have more than 40 subjects every semester. And the thing that surprised me in the beginning was that students who revised extensively, because we give a revision mark to students, did not actually get a higher grade in the final disciplinary assignment. So then I talked with the colleagues and experienced consultants, and they said it is quite common for weaker students to spend much longer on the materials because they want to improve their grade, but they still may not be able to become smartest mathematicians or the smartest biologists at the end. They were weak to begin with. So that's why some results from analytics do not correlate into higher grades. So I felt a bit relieved because we were thinking we are working so hard, helping students to revise, and how come? But if you compare them with themselves, their own previous grade, then they do make improvement.
Great.
So, yeah. So thank you, Stella. Can I just continue from here? We have around 15 minutes. I wanted to leave some time for questions. Some feedback was quite interesting from subject teacher interviews. Talking to a supervisor who was supervising the intervention with clients, we were given some very useful suggestions in our first piloting. Although the supervisor was very, very satisfied with the materials, especially students writing after engaging with the materials, they gave us further suggestions, which were very valuable for us. Like, we would never have understood the disciplinary requirements. For example, we were asked to insert other sections, for example, to log the promotion or recruitment of participants after the background information for the group intake summary. We were also given some suggestions to have to split some sections for pre-group observation and group summary, extra column for example, workers' intervention in the process. And because these are the materials being used in real life, so this feedback was valuable. Also, we were asked to add follow-up plan recommendations section, and we did that in the next round. Also, of course, colleagues from social science department want us to be there to teach them, but of course it has close relationship with the resources. But they say ideally we should be there in pre-placement workshop and help the students together with them, or use the materials in pre-placement workshop, which makes sense. And students also, focus group interview, these were the students who were assigned to Center of Youths, 8 to 11-year-old, and they spent around 3 hours time to read the samples. In their focus group, though, the students who came to the focus group, they gave us this information. And so they valued structure scaffolding of their very first case summary recording. This was the first time they wrote it. And they valued the information, as Stella mentioned, on tenses, on useful expressions. And they said keynote is mostly table of content. That means it tells them what are the important sections. The students who came for focus group, they didn't attempt language activities. Now, language activities worksheet is, we distill some language aspects and we make a separate worksheet. In fact, all of this guidance is given within the annotated samples and reports as well. So probably they didn't have time to go through language activities. It's a kind of message for us how to expose students to language activities. And amendments suggested by the students were, again, similar to the supervisor. And they wanted, of course, more fleshed out sample answers. Students love models, right? Also including the application of theories, it shows their weakness. They are still struggling with this aspect, as Andy also mentioned, and group developmental stage section, where they need to apply the theories. So the responses indicate that language, although the language activities were underused, and their response to sample and writing tips indicates that they prefer to learn or think about language in concurrence with the information about the assignment. So they don't want to have language input separately. And I think it's quite logical. This is not a language subject. This is their major subject, where they don't have time to kind of separately be coached on language. They want everything relevant to be together. And that is also a good message to take from here, how to expose students to language work within the context. So these are the conclusions that we drew, and I think probably there are many more, that discipline-based materials are needed that address genre and language issues from disciplinary perspective, focusing on key assignments separately. Even if we design separate language courses, we must collaborate with the discipline faculty and prepare materials that are highly relevant, because they don't have time to waste. And especially at this level, year 3, 4 in university, they are going to enter their workplace very soon. And so it's extremely important that they are given the appropriate training. Also, collaboration with subject expert is important if we want the materials and pedagogy to meet the needs of our students. So it also has an impact for the subject teacher's pedagogy to help their students write well. It's also important that disciplinary faculty takes a lead in integrating genre-based materials. This is very, very important. They should have a stake and they should take the lead, because they understand their students and their needs. And also it is their subjects into which we have provided support. So their motivation, their understanding, their engagement is crucial. So that networking and that collaboration it should be the most important step in this. And in order to prepare easily accessible, genre-based, standardized systems for disciplinary writing, collaboration is the key, and also continuous collaboration to create more sustainable, pedagogically sound learning environment for students, so that they receive consistent feedback from all stakeholders, from language teachers, from subject teachers. And this one of the aims of this project was to impact, as I mentioned, subject pedagogy, as well as provide students a consistent scaffolding. And we think that it has worked. And you can see Stella and all her team were extremely, and the time wasn't wasted on separate language input. Here we worked together within the same time to help our students achieve better grades and understand their work better. And actually, apart from grades, they became better social workers, because they understood what they needed to do. And thank you. And any comments, questions? I would like to thank Andy and Stella again for working closely with me for more than 2 years on this project. Yeah.
And also thank you, Lucy.
Yes, and Lucy Chan was the liaison person collaborating with Stella, and she has retired. In fact, I contacted her this morning to ask about how we and when we received the samples from you. So she knows that we are presenting. Thank you for reminding me. She's a great collaborator, and yeah, unfortunately, she's retired now. Yeah. So Andy, do you want to make any comments, or anybody wants to have any questions or discussion? Okay, so Andy, do you want to say anything about the change in materials and how some part about collaboration with the social work department?
Yeah, it's just, I guess from the subject leader perspective, this is a very useful experience for me. Of course, we do meet the program coordinators in the social science department every 1 to 2 years. But yeah, this project's enabled, a sort of a closer collaboration and really just to check in that what we're doing fits what the students need in their professional futures. So, as an ESP teacher, you're always sort of wondering, what are we teaching?
Yeah, thank you.
What the
And
students
I
need.
really truly enjoyed working on this project. It was, yeah, like everything was falling into place when we were working on it. Lucy would come to me excited about every time she analyzed new material. So the team members were really motivated. I also thank Andy for, agreeing to collaborate with us. And I think it had these kind of, there are very few projects that you're very satisfied with that it had an impact on students. And this is one of those projects where I feel very happy that we worked truly collaboratively and were able to impact our students' performance. I truly believe that this was a very valuable engagement. And also social work is so interesting. And I mean, I never knew all these, aspects about disciplinary writing in social work. And that was a learning experience for me as a language professional.
It's useful to have that background because we serve students from different programs. So with the funding proposal, it's quite general, but they have to write, more specific genres. So that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for presenting with me. I truly value your collaboration.
Yes, as a subject teachers, I also, same as Shari said before, we also increase our awareness of the writing after this project.
Absolutely. I think they cannot be truly separated, especially at disciplinary level. And this collaboration is I don't know why we don't do this more for language teaching. Yeah, I think it's really useful and relevant and efficient to help our students. Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Thank you to the audience. Yeah, thank you for
attending this.
Thank
and
you.
There's a recording of this talk as well. Yeah. Bye.
Okay, bye.